You know, every now and then I need to take a break from the more serious movies on the channel and just check out something completely ridiculous just for fun. And this time I wanted to take a look at The White Gorilla from 1945, which is by far the silliest, most convoluted movie I've seen in a long time. And I loved it. The story here is that there is a mysterious white gorilla who inhabits the jungle, haunting some of the locals. But this is more than just a gorilla movie of the 1940s. This one also features a weird hodgepodge of footage from a 1927 silent serial, Perils of the Jungle. Let me tell you, this one was something else. So I'll give a quick summary of the film without spoiling the thrilling white gorilla conclusion, and then offer some closing thoughts. So the film opens up with Ray Corrigan as the character Steve Collins, who off-screen gives us a narrative of the jungle with lots of stock footage of animals going on. Well, we cut to a jungle lodge and we see a bunch of explorer characters who are just sort of sitting around, drinking and lamenting the constant noises of the jungle animals. And they discuss how foolish a Bradford character was to try to lead an expedition into a jungle he knew so little about. And they speculate if he's dead or alive. Now, suddenly, Steve Collins arrives, and he looks all beaten and ragged. He had been Bradford's guide, and seems like he's been roughed up pretty bad. So they help restore him to health again, and Steve begins his narrative of what had happened to Bradford. Now, apparently Bradford had been captured by a jungle tribe, and this leads us to the first flashback, I guess you could call it. In other words, the first clip of the silent movie Perils of the Jungle from 1927, but now with music and sounds added. Now, the scene shows Bradford, and by the way, the character is referred to as Bradford, but in the silent movie, the character was originally called Bedford, the character being played by Frank Merrill. So, similar sounding name, and I'm probably analyzing this far deeper than anyone would ever bother. Bradford is tied up in a native's village when all of a sudden this strange jungle boy arrives. Actor Bobby Nelson. He's kind of like a miniature Tarzan or something, commanding the elephants. Well, he orders the men released, and Steve is watching all of this take place from a safe distance and continues to narrate everything that happens. Now, Perils of the Jungle was a silent film, so I guess they needed to add the voiceover and the music, I guess. So Steve continues to watch, and he comments about Bradford had fled from some lions and now was climbing up a tree. And from his same spot, he is able to see a woman, Allison, Eugenia Gilbert, who is getting on a raft, only to be chased by a hippo. So Steve is watching all of this take place from the same spot. How he can do it all is a little bewildering, but whatever. Bradford sees a hippo heading towards the girl, and he yells for her to look out. She's alarmed, and she falls into the water and swims away. Steve watches all of this and doesn't get involved for some reason. Bradford swings in, Tarzan style, and saves Allison. Meanwhile, back at the lodge, we see our first view of the mysterious white gorilla. Now, many of the guys don't believe this white gorilla business. They think Steve might be going a little crazy. So they ask him more about Allison. And we find out that she lives in the jungle and is the daughter of an explorer who had lost his eyesight. Steve was at their camp for months with another character, Lou Hanley, played by Albert J. Smith. Now, he was their new guide, helping them on their quest to find the Cave of the Cyclops, a cave with untold treasures. And then we go back to another flashback. We see Hanley is actually kind of a devious, sneaky fellow, and he wants to steal the map to the treasure for himself. But Bradford arrives just in time, and they get into a big old fight. And yeah, Steve is still up in a tree somewhere watching all of this happen, I guess. Now a bunch of lions suddenly attack, and Bradford drives the lions away, but in the skirmish, Hanley makes his escape. We then cut to another scene, with Bradford and Allison moving to another camp, as Steve continues to watch all of this happen from a distance, continuing the narrative. We see the Jungle Boy again, and he is surrounded by lions, and he's about to be attacked at what kind of looks like maybe a lion pen at the zoo, but then a mysterious man with a whip appears and saves him. We cut back to the present time, and Steve is out in the jungle with Carter when the sinister white gorilla attacks and clobbers them both. He leaves Steve knocked out on the ground and takes Carter away as a hostage. The sight of the gorilla startles some elephants who charge at Hanley. So we kind of cut back into one of the clips from the old movie again. Hanley runs and hides in a hut with Bradford and Allison. The elephants are about to charge and destroy their hut, but then the Jungle Boy is there and he calls off the elephants. Oh, and Steve is woken up at this point and, of course, is watching all of this happen from a safe distance. Meanwhile, the white gorilla carrying Carter sees the black gorilla. He drops Carter and the two charge into battle. Oh yeah, it's on.
I found Carter where the white gorilla had dropped him. While the mad beasts fought to destroy each other, I carried Carter to safety.
Now back at the lodge, Ruth Stacy arrives. She's played by actress Lorraine Miller. And she meets Steve, learning about his perils with the white gorilla. This leads us to another clip in which we see Bradford and Allison are at a village now, but that evil Hanley's latest scheme is sending a native to leave some boar meat near Bradford's tent to try to lure some lions towards them. Would that qualify as boar's head meat? Yeah. Anyhow, Steve continues to watch from a distance as the lions go crazy, trying to get into the hut to get the meat. But thankfully, in the nick of time, the Jungle Boy shows up and helps them escape through a passage in the ground. Meanwhile, Hanley meets his fate with the lions. Off screen, of course. Next, Steve explains how he tracked the Jungle Boy to a mysterious cave where he lives with his mother. Her thing is that she's pretending to be insane and some sort of a priestess of the Cyclops statue, while having Jungle Boy secretly operate the Cyclops statue in the cave to confuse the Tigermen warriors. She orders them to go and gather Bradford and Allison, which they do. But now their intention is to take these people and feed them to some live tigers. And of course, Steve continues to watch all of this from a distance, somehow able to see into a cave, I guess. Jungle Boy arrives and operates the Cyclops statue secretly, which stops the execution of Bradford and Allison. Steve then leaves, observing this, and is attacked by the white gorilla again. Looks like Steve might be done for, but then the black gorilla reappears and another fight ensues. And yeah, the fight is just so intense. Well, Steve is back at the post, and the men there want to go out and help those people in the cave. So they all leave except for Steve and Ruth, who is left there to care for the injured Steve. Now, Ruth is told repeatedly, do not leave the post. But as you can expect, she leaves the post almost immediately when they get the word that a little girl has been lost in the jungle. So Ruth, all alone in the jungle with her rifle, doesn't find the girl, but instead encounters the white gorilla. And what will happen? Well, with not much left to the film, I'll let you catch the exciting ending for yourself. And this one's in the public domain, so you can find it anywhere, even on Amazon Prime. Just don't read into it too much. This film was definitely something. All right, to wrap up, The White Gorilla was released in 1945, and it was written and directed by Larry L. Frazier and starred Ray Corrigan, Lorraine Miller, and George J. Lewis. But it also included numerous sequences taken from the 1927 silent serial Perils of the Jungle, which seamlessly blend into the film. If you watch this and study the story and the characters closely, you will be left with a lot of questions. So just go into this one and have a good time. There's a guy, he's in the jungle, there's a giant white gorilla, and there are plenty of flashbacks to a completely unrelated jungle movie to pad out the story. That's the film in a nutshell. While researching this one a little bit, I took a look at the memoirs of director Harry Frazier from a book titled I Went That-A-Way. And his notes about this film are both informative and hilarious. According to his book, I learned that Lewis Weiss, described as a shoestring producer who Frazier had worked with previously, pitched the idea of a film involving a white gorilla gimmick, with Frazier handling the writing and the directing. According to the memoirs, and I'm quoting from chapter 14, called Hokum at the Box Office, he knew that it didn't matter how corny it was, as long as it was full of menace, suspense, and excitement. He finally came up with the outrageous story idea of a big white gorilla and his archenemy, the menacing black gorilla. He described the process as he was, quoting the book here, putting together this nonsensical piece of corn. Now, Ray Corrigan and Lorraine Miller were brought on board with the film using a lot of stock footage, and the actual shooting taking only 3 days and 1 night to complete. Wow. 6 weeks from completion, the film made its opening run in San Francisco and continued to play at theaters across the country and did well financially for the Lewis Weiss Company and for director Frazier. What I found so funny watching this was how much this reminded me of the gimmick of the clip show, from an old episode of a TV series where they make up an episode mostly of segments from previous episodes, framed with a small amount of new footage, and then they put it all together with some kind of cohesion. Like when Commander Riker is injured in Star Trek The Next Generation, and we see all of these various scenes from his life, from past episodes, that sort of thing. Even funnier is how the silent scenes were edited at sound speed. So when blended into the film, the action appears a little wonky and unnaturally fast when compared with the new footage. And I'll be honest, it had me chuckling through the whole film. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. It's a crazy movie. And I will say this, I enjoy seeing anything with Ray Crash Corrigan, who has been in a ton of films, namely many B-Western movies, and also as a stuntman, frequently as gorillas, using his own gorilla costumes. Honestly, I should do a bio video of him in the future. And while most of his scenes in this film are either him watching with a concerned look from a safe distance or getting mauled by a gorilla, I still enjoy seeing him again as he sort of pasted together the various scenes of this crazy patchwork film. Ray Corrigan played both the jungle explorer and the gorilla here. I think that's kind of cool. The costume that he used here, the gorilla suit, was also in the film White Pongo, and years later was brought out of storage to be used in the Jerry Warren abominable snowman movie Man Beast from 1956. Now, Corrigan owned his own suits and worked as a gorilla man, actually starting out with Tarzan the Ape Man in 1932 with Johnny Weissmuller. Now, as I close things up, I have to give a spoiler. And no, I won't give a spoiler about what happens with the big white gorilla. but rather a spoiler about the story element of the people that the last time we saw them, they were all in the Temple of the Cyclops. I can't help myself because it genuinely made me laugh to see how this part of the story ended. So I'm putting this near the end of the video. So if you really feel the urge to go and see the ending for yourself, stop the review, go check it out. It's public domain. You can find it anywhere. But this is just too good. Here's what made me laugh. At the end of the film, after all is said and done with the white gorilla, the other explorers return to the post, and we're all wondering, what happened to all of those characters in the temple? Bradford and Allison, the Jungle Boy and his mother, the natives, and so on. Well, this is the grand conclusion we've all been waiting for. We find out from the explorers who had gone out from the outpost to look for them in the Cyclops cave. They got there, and all they found was a tiger pit filled with a bunch of tigers and nothing but human bones. So much for all of those characters from 1927. I mean, wow, what a way to wrap things up. I guess they all died. Huh. Well, anyhow, I hope I didn't spoil the ending too badly for you to the film, but you got to go check it out for yourself and see. Let me close this review out. The White Gorilla from 1945, it was a blast. If you're looking for a good cheesy movie to enjoy, then look no further. If you're getting over a severe head cold and you're heavily souped up with NyQuil, all the better. The White Gorilla was great fun, and it's definitely worth checking out.